are so many people out there who want to volunteer and find a way in which they can help.
We've got some brilliant people that have come out of the school system here in Attleboro.
You actually perform as an elected official the way people should.
There are no agendas. Nobody has any projects that they have to complete, but we're just sharing information.
Welcome to People It's Good to Know. I'm your host, John Davis, and tonight we have another in our series of local elected officials here running for re-election and advocating for your support. Tonight we're fortunate to have at-large school committee member Shannon Johnson. Shannon, thank you so much for being here with us.
John, thank you so much for having me.
So, for those people out there that might not know a little bit about Shannon Johnson, why don't you share with us your story?
Sure, absolutely. My husband and I moved up here in April of 1997 with the April 1st snowstorm nipping at our heels. And we moved up here from Pennsylvania for my husband's work and ended up setting roots in Attleboro, fell in love with the city. We have raised our family here. I have one daughter who is a senior at the high school this year. Very proud of her, starting the whole college application process right now. And we've just, again, we've come to love Attleboro and so happy to be part of this community and so happy to be able to raise our family here.
That's great. So prior to running for school committee, had you been involved in any other community groups, organizations, or anything like that? Or was school committee your first?
School committee was my first elected position when my daughter was in preschool and we were considering, what are the next steps for kindergarten. I did a lot of research. I made calls to my school committee ward and at-large members to get some information, and they directed me to other pieces of information that was very interesting and helpful in our research. I was often curious, and I spoke with them often. And when the district put together their first strategic plan, Envisioning 2020, I was lucky enough to be asked to be part of one of the ad hoc committees forming the mission and vision statements.
Oh, that's great.
And it opened my eyes up to the power of what people can do to help improve their communities. I got to understand what we could and couldn't do and different parameters and the whys and behind that. And I just got really, really jazzed with being able to make a difference. And I wanted to take that to the next level, and that's what inspired me to pull papers that first time around. That's
right. You use that phrase I always like to hear, make a difference. I think that's what most people really strive for, is to be involved with something they feel as if they can make a difference.
Sure.
And so you decide that you want to be involved, and then you choose to run for school committee. How did the details of that all come about?
Sure. Well, being that we weren't, from here originally, I didn't feel that I knew enough of the ins and outs of what it would take to run for city council. Education has always been something that's been very important to our family, and I wanted to continue the good work of making, allowing more opportunities. I'm not an educator by training, but again, I understand the importance of education. And my daughter had a wonderful, wonderful experience in kindergarten. It really was, very different from what I had read on social media. And I just thought, wow, we really need to communicate. What a great job the schools are doing. Is it perfect? No, there's always opportunities for improvement. But to be able to make a difference for our most vulnerable community members, we live here. They're coming up behind, and it was just something that was really important to me.
That's really great. Now you mentioned you're not an educator. You're actually in the finance world, is that?
I have been. I'm actually a customer service professional. I've spent probably the bulk of my career in either telecommunications or financial services, from banking to insurance and annuities through John Hancock. And currently I'm working in the manufacturing sector. Working at a company that manufactures laminated materials that it's funds used for costumes all the way up to military uses. So it's really dynamic, and it's fun to know that even from there I'm making a difference and helping people make a difference for their customers, and it all circles back.
You've been in customer service, which really local elected office is much more customer service related, right? It's taking calls, helping people find out information and solve their individual problem.
Absolutely, and it's listening. It's listening to what people are calling about. A lot of times people will be very frustrated, and to just be there, hold some space, listen, figure out what's going on, and realize that this isn't an us against them situation. It's thank you for bringing your problem to me, and now let's work together to solve that problem or make things better. And sometimes it's I can make a phone call or I can make a suggestion. Other times it's something that is not in my purview, but I know who they can go to. So, let's, speak to this person, and then I can follow up and make sure that they had that conversation and that they got the answer that they needed. And if not, we just keep chipping away at it until we figure it out.
Well, one of the things that I've always said to people is that if something is bothering you, you're not the only one.
Yes.
There's no issue out there that only affects one person. Our community is all so interconnected that there may be 25 other people who feel the same way, but nobody speaks up.
I agree. And I have to say one thing that has developed in my time on the committee is our Welcome Center. When I first ran, one area of opportunity that I saw was the district's ability to communicate in a way that was consistent across all of our 5 middle schools, 3 elementary schools, the high school. And the district has been making strides towards that, incremental steps every year. And something that opened up in the last handful of years with the new high schools, the Welcome Center, where if somebody has a question and they don't know where to go to, call the Welcome Center. They are such a wealth of knowledge, whether it's anything regarding the district, your child. If it's something more global, like needing other community resources, a referral for a specific type of condition, or referral to how do I navigate the food pantry, things of that nature. Again, because we are a community, these are the public schools. This is Attleboro's public school, and we have a responsibility to help each other out. And oftentimes I'll see on Facebook or social media somebody venting a frustration, or they don't know where to go to answer A, B, C, and D. And I have to say, there are days that I need to be off of social media for a few days at a time. So I may not see that immediately, or I may see it at an inopportune time. But just to know that you can always go to the Welcome Center, and they're always going to help you. And I'm so proud that came into being during my time on the school committee.
And that's my next line of questioning is, what are some of the things that you've actually been involved with in your period of time there that you take a lot of pride in, for lack of a better word?
Sure. Well, I've been lucky in my time to have served on each one of the 4 subcommittees. So we have finance, we have facilities, we have teaching and learning. Oh my goodness! But yeah, we
curriculum.
That's teaching and learning for sure.
Okay.
But I'm so proud that I am currently the chair of the teaching and learning subcommittee, which I really appreciate. Policy. How can I forget policy? It's one of the main things the school committee does. Just like the schools, I'm not perfect, but we keep fighting. We figure it out. And during my time on the school committee, being able to make the votes that allowed the construction of the new high school. Our new high school is wonderful. The school building committee did a great job future-proofing the school. You know, you and I were talking briefly beforehand about how when the original high school was built, we didn't know what life would look like now.
Right.
You know, and we don't know what life's going to look like in 60, 70 years
Right.
from now, but we do the best we can to future-proof. And again, when it comes to being, one of the missions of the Attleboro Public Schools is to be a community centered around education. But part of that is that the schools need to give back to the community as well. And one thing of this wonderful new high school is we have the marketplace where there's the Blue Pride Bistro, which I highly recommend. Wonderful food, wonderful students. They're learning and they're doing a great job there. The Blue and Beyond Salon. We have our marketing there, our graphic design. That is Bristol County Savings Bank, one of our wonderful partners with the school. All have locations there that you can stop by and do your banking, have a bite to eat. And it also helps the students get that practical knowledge. So that's something I'm really proud of. It's a beacon for the city, and I'm so proud of my small part in making that happen.
That's great. So I'm sure, like almost all the other candidates, you've been out there now going around talking to people about the upcoming elections.
Sure.
What kind of interesting things have you heard from people?
You know, a lot of folks have mentioned that they wish that there was more home ec or shop like there was, you know, during their time in school. And I have to say, one of the great conversations I've had is we have that, it's just envisioned differently. So instead of having a specific home economics class or a carpentry class, we have 19 CTE, career technical education programs at the high school. And every freshman, and this started me with the new high school, every freshman spends time in every single one of those curriculums, or what, so that they get a taste. So, you know, my child, for example, spent 2 or 3 weeks in culinary, in carpentry, in automotive, in graphic design. We have still posters in our house from when she had her time as a freshman there. So kids do get to have an experience, and they get a little taste
In a whole
of all
array.
that.
Because we
Yes.
did that when I was there 45 years ago, but there were much fewer programs,
Yes.
and you had to opt to participate. It wasn't as if all the kids chose to try those things out.
Exactly. And what's great about that is, you know, your student might not realize that they have a passion for A, B, or C, or D because they've never had an opportunity to be exposed to it.
Right.
You know, and even if they are exposed to one of these CTE classes and they're like, yeah, no, not my cup of tea, thank you. But now they have an appreciation for what goes on, you know, behind the scenes.
Well, it's certainly a learning experience in one way or another.
Yes.
And I think that's great. And one of the things, you know, about our high school is, you know, so many of the students enrolled there participate in one or another of the CTE programs.
Yes, it varies between 92 and 97% of the students from graduating class to graduating class.
Quite interesting.
Yes.
Quite interesting. So what, in the 10 years or so that you've been involved in the school committee, what changes have you seen that you stand out to you? Other than just the fact that we built a brand new high school, are there other things that kind of stand out as, yeah, I didn't see this coming when I started, or?
Well, you know, one thing I have to say is the budget, the funding for the schools. I didn't realize what a deficit we have compared to what we call our dark districts, which are like districts. But one thing I'm happy to report is that our state representatives work with us very, very closely, and we're making strides in closing that gap. And one thing that I really want to stress is that this is not because the city doesn't want to fund the schools. This is, or you know, the budget. They've actually been really, really great with working. As a whole, because we are one city. We're one city. It's one budget. but we just keep striving to close some of those gaps. Unfortunately, Attleboro is in the bottom 10% of net school spending and per pupil expenditure, which again has nothing to do with the city's want to fund the schools, but rather the state calculations. So, but last year, during the MASC, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, their Day on the Hill, we made a lot of strides. Some of my colleagues from the school committee were able to go to the State House and really advocate for Attleboro. And I have to say, our teachers and our students have amazing outcomes despite the resources that they have. And long term, it's not tenable, but really I want to applaud our educators and our students for the pride and the effort that they put in.
I think you're absolutely right on all of those counts, that our teachers and our administrators have done an amazing job with what they've had to work with.
Yes.
As you and everyone else knows, lack of funding for education has been one of my pet peeves for the last 35 years.
For sure.
And again, that's why I've been such a big advocate for business development in our community, because that's the only way we're really ever going to dig ourselves out of the hole that took us 2 generations to get into.
Agreed.
But rather than spend the whole show using up your time talking about my grievance, what are the things that you look forward to being able to do if you're reelected?
Sure. So the Attleboro Special Education Parent Advisory Committee has been revamped, re-energized, and I am so happy for that. One of my committee members, Lynn Porto, is the school committee representative for for the Attleboro CPAC, and we've made this a standing agenda item on our subcommittee meeting. We have such a wide population, and we want to make sure that we're touching on all the needs of all the different students. But this is important, and again, we've instead of making it multiple times a year, it's standing for every teaching learning committee meeting going forward. So I'd like to see that continue. I'd like to continue the work on the high quality educational materials that came out as part of our strategic plan. And again, these are the schools that are the Attleboro schools, and the strategic plan helps the administration, the school committee, focus on what is our North Star. So this is a really big organization, and this isn't like a sports car that you can turn on a dime if you need to change something.
Right.
We're this great big boat. So when we need to prioritize resources, funding, time, where do we want to focus those efforts if we're limited? So the strategic plan helps guide that planning for the district, and the input is not only from families and teachers and administrators, but community members. It's another great way for us to build those partnerships with other businesses in the community. And so that's something I'd like to see continue. Fiscal responsibility is important to me because I'm a community member. I'm a taxpayer, so I want to make sure that whatever money I'm putting into those coffers is being used as smartly as possible, as efficiently as possible. Right. Not necessarily as cheaply as possible, because sometimes it's expensive to be cheap, but to make sure we're getting the most for our dollar. And to that end, I just want to give kudos to our administration, our coaches, our assistant superintendent, who's in charge of, or the head of curriculum. The thought they put into the curriculum to making sure that that it's efficient, but that we're going to get the best outcome for our dollar. That they're smart about how we can individualize lessons to the student while not leaving somebody behind and pushing somebody forward. curriculum where they can get this metadata and they can visualize the data to see quickly who's learning what, so that they can be nimble in their classroom. We may not be able to be nimble in turning the district, right, but within the classroom, to give those teachers the tools and the support and the education to be able to be their best selves and give the best of themselves to their students.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've found intriguing over the years is how each and every school in the system is like its own little community.
Yes.
There's a certain level of autonomy that each principal has been given. And it's interesting to me, if you go around and visit each of the schools for a little bit, the different vibe, the different feel that you get at each and every one of them. Had that been, as a school committee member, I imagine you spent a fair amount of time visiting each of these locations. And that's got to be, I imagine, an interesting thing to observe, right?
It is, and it's partly by design. I mean, there's certain standards that we need to meet, certain curriculum measures that we need to meet as per state and federal law. But where we can, we think it's important that that those individual schools have their own individual community and vibe, and do what's best for the students in that make up that particular community. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever thought about maybe at some point in the future doing some other political venture or something else in education?
I think I am at the apex of my political career. Although I find it interesting, again, I understand the privilege that I have with having the time and the bandwidth to be able to commit the time that I do to school committee. And, I really appreciate those that run for city council and maybe even at the state level. But that's definitely not a time commitment that I have available right now. So I appreciate that they have stepped forward and they are doing that work on behalf of the rest of the community.
That's great. So we got 5 or 6 minutes left here this
Sure.
evening. What other things would you like to share with the people out there who on November 4th are going to pick? There are going to be 4 people running in the at-large race.
Yes.
3 of the 4 are going to get elected.
Yes.
And all 3 of the present members, including yourself, are running for re-election. So it's really interesting because there hasn't been a contested at-large race in several years.
That is correct.
So it's quite interesting. So what would you like to share with the people out there who are trying to decide, okay, which 3 of these 4 individuals do I want to see representing us?
Sure. Well, first I want to thank everybody who is currently running for the at-large position. I think choice is important if we want to have a healthy democracy. So I applaud my fellow representatives there. What's important to me is to create as many opportunities as we can for our students. Take away any, not that we have barriers, but remove barriers by creating more and more opportunity and having the, continuing with the relationship that we have with our community members. I mentioned this in a previous school committee meeting and on Saturday with Dave Kane. Our community is really proud and so very involved. And many of our CTE programs, the students go out and they have practical experience at the different locations. And one of our wonderful partners, Sturdy Hospital, reported back to us that while they have students that come from multiple districts to spend time at the hospital, they were really impressed with the high level of preparedness and professionalism from our students. And then, again, I think that goes back to this is Attleboro schools, this is the Attleboro community, so proud of that. And just to continue to do what we can to support our students and bring joy to their day-to-day lives.
So one of the things that I find well, in every aspect of life nowadays, it seems to be lacking is communication. How have you found communication to be with the administration and between the administration and the parents? And what's your observation been?
Sure. So I've seen improvements over the past 10 years by having different lines of communication with email, with consistent weekly messages from their building administration. Is there room to improve? Probably. But we continue to make those strides. Again, really want to call out the Welcome Center and how they are so open and willing for anybody who feels like they're not getting the answers that they need. They can go there, no judgments, no questions, and lots of answers. So, but yeah, and that's something that as Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have said in the past, there is always room for improvement.
Yeah, I've always felt that the one big downside in government is lack of communication. And I just think maybe, just my view, that we need to work on sort of training the next generation of kids to communicate better maybe than some of the present.
Well, and that's if I could do a quick plug for our Portrait of a Graduate. We do, and again, this also came from our strategic plan, and the state of Massachusetts recently stated that they want to roll something out similarly statewide, based on what we created here in Attleboro, where we want individualized learning as much as we can so that our students reach their maximum personal potential. And a big part, one of the limbs on that train the Portrait of a Graduate is communication and critical thinking, and that's something that we find is really important as our future changes, and we're becoming more and more collaborative in our future job prospects, our future careers, and that's something that's important, and something that I'm proud of that we're doing here at Attleboro.
That's great. And Shannon, we're running out of time here this evening, but first I want to thank you on all the years of service that you've given to the community, and I look forward to seeing the results of the election on November 4th. and I would encourage everyone to get out there and pick the 3 out of the 4 candidates that you think you would best like to see representing you for the next 2 years. And I'd like to thank all of you also for tuning into this evening's show. And hopefully you'll tune in next week when we'll have another candidate for public office. There are so many people out there who want to volunteer and find a way in which they can help.
We've got some brilliant people that have come out of the school system here in Attleboro.
You actually perform as an elected official the way people should.
There are no agendas. Nobody has any projects that they have to complete, but we're just sharing information